Hello and welcome to another AIC video. Today I wanted to talk about my selection of $200 laptops and some recommendations as we go into the holiday season. I know a lot of people are going to be buying laptops in the next few weeks, getting ready for Christmas. And so I wanted to talk about some of my experiences with purchasing laptops for less than $200. So this video, I apologize, I have some notes over here that I took, so hopefully I don't repeat myself too much. But if I'm looking over here, it's because I'm reading my notes. But first off, this video comes with a big caveat. I don't know you, I don't know what your needs are, so I'm only going to speak about my experiences and my expectations. But hopefully that helps you with some decision making and some ideas of what might work best for you. So the first thing I'm going to make a suggestion on when you're buying a laptop is spend a few minutes, maybe an hour, and figure out when you're looking at, especially with new laptops, but it also goes for older generation laptops, the CPUs. So this laptop right here, it's a Lenovo 130S. This was also sold as a 120S, a 110S, and a 100S. And they all look very similar. There's some different colors in there. There's some blue ones and some white ones and silver and red, depending on the year. But they all look more or less the same. And when you go shopping online, it's very easy to buy one that's 3 or 4 generations old because it's sold as newest or latest generation, even though it's new old stock and it has a processor that's much older. This one, for example, is the Celeron N4000 processor. The one before this had a 3350. The one before that had a 3050. So there's some big jumps in there as far as performance and some other specs. So one good thing to do is to actually look at the manufacturer's website. So when you're looking at laptops, look at their website and see what they sell as current new products on their website, and then search around for the best price for those. So that goes for that. As far as buying older laptops, you want to look and see what features older processors. Like this is a ThinkPad X220 and this is an X250, and in a lot of ways they're very similar. They both have 2.5-inch screens. They both have 8 gigs of RAM, 250 gig or 200 and whatever gig SSD in them. But this one has a 2nd gen Core i5 processor, and this has a 5th gen Core i5 processor. And there's some big differences in CPU performance, but also, and more specifically, GPU performance between these two systems because they have integrated Intel graphics. So that's something to consider when buying these laptops. Is it's worth your time and your effort to research the CPUs a little bit. I'm being a little bit generic because this video is just an overview. I'm not going to talk about any specific CPU, but just when you're searching, make sure you take the time to figure out which CPU you will be shopping for, especially on these low-end laptops. They still sell the 120S for the same price as the 130S, even though the 130S has a significantly better processor. One thing I would say is, if you're looking to buy a tablet, buy an iPad, straight up. Don't worry about Windows tablets. I've had a lot of Windows tablets, and this one I think was $75 or $80 when I bought it. This one was over $200. So this is actually the most expensive laptop on this desk outside of my 25th anniversary, which isn't part of the review, that's just where I have my notes. So every time I use a Windows tablet, I'm disappointed. They don't get that great a battery life compared to non-Windows tablets. Very few of the apps are compatible with a touch interface, and they're typically strapped with an Intel Atom processor, which is a terrible processor and it's very slow compared to some of these other systems. And so I just would not recommend getting a Windows tablet, because by the time you get one usable, you've typically added a case and keyboard and things like that. Could have just had a laptop, you know, and this does not get any better sound. In fact, it's worse sound than any other these other laptops. It gets better, worse performance than any of the others laptops. The only thing it has going for it really is it has a really nice screen. It does have a nice screen. So avoid the Windows tablets. If you're going to get a tablet, get an iPad. Just do it. If you buy any other tablet, the only other tablet I'd recommend is something like this, which is a Kindle Fire. And the reason for that is these are so heavily subsidized that you get a pretty decent performing tablet for next to nothing cost-wise. This is an older gen, this is the latest gen tablet. And they're okay. They're not great, they're not wonderful. You're definitely stuck with the Amazon ecosystem unless you do a lot of work to sideload the Google Play Store. If you even can, they keep trying to lock that down. So in the end, unless you're buying an iPad, I would almost recommend against just about any tablet. As far as these laptops go, all of these have a minimum spec on them because previous ones that I've purchased and reviewed and sold, I can't recommend them. You won't want to buy anything with less than 4 gigs of memory. Most of these have that memory soldered on to the motherboard and it is not upgradable. Some of them, like this Asus and this Dell, you can upgrade the memory on, but this Lenovo, this Asus, that Lenovo, you can't upgrade the memory on. These used laptops, and we'll talk about that in a minute, you can upgrade the memory on, but that's because they're a completely different class of machine. But if you're buying one of these, don't buy anything less than 4 gigs of memory and 64 gigabytes of storage. This Dell only has 32 gigabytes of storage, even though it has 4 gigs of RAM. It is not upgradable, that storage. And because of that, it won't even run Windows updates. It is a completely fresh install of Windows. I have installed nothing on this laptop, and yet it cannot update Windows because there's not enough hard drive space on there. So if you look in the specs, you want to make sure that it has at least 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. They'll either say SSD or hard drive or eMMC to label that storage. 64 gigs, nothing less. Now, as far as buying used, I am a huge proponent, especially in this price point, of buying a used laptop. Something like this X220. Now, I've put a fancy skin on it, but it was a really nice condition laptop. This was $150. This X250. This X220, I think I spent about $80 on it. And both of these laptops, I did go ahead and spend a little bit more money. I bought them with, I believe they each had 4 gigs of RAM, and I upgraded them to 8 gigs of RAM, and I believe they both came with a spinning hard drive or a HDD, and of like 500 gigs, I think, each. And I did go ahead and buy an SSD for them. The RAM is very inexpensive. The SSDs are really inexpensive storage anymore. They used to be very expensive. They've come way down in price. And something like these is awesome. You do miss out on some features. I will admit to that. They don't have nearly as nice a screen. You don't have things like USB Type-C. You don't have DDR4 memory, which is faster memory. But despite all that, they are significantly faster and more powerful than these other new laptops that were new for less than $200. And that's because when these laptops were first released, they were $1,000, $900, $1,500, depending on what specs they had, because they're business class laptops, and so they're meant to take a beating, and they're meant to be fairly robust for work environments. And so they make a great used laptop. A lot of these are bought in bulk by companies on lease, and then after the lease they sell them. They're often in very good condition and are very affordable online. I personally buy Lenovo's because I've bought Lenovo's for years, and so I have a lot of extra power cords and docking stations and batteries and things like that. And so like the battery that fits in this also fits in this and also fits in this, and fits in my wife's laptop and my mom's laptop, same with the docking stations. And so I have kind of bought into an older Lenovo ecosystem, and that's just because that's what I started doing. But you can buy great laptops from HP as well. There's also Dell, and I'm not a big fan of Dell, I will say that. But if you're a fan of Dell, they do make business class laptops, and you can buy them. I would definitely stick to a third, fourth, or fifth generation Core i5 or i7 processor. And I wouldn't worry too much about how much memory they have, or the SSD or hard drive that they have, because you can upgrade those fairly easily yourself for not a lot of money. I would just make sure that the laptop itself is in excellent condition, and that it comes with the basics like a power cord, and that all the covers. A lot of them you'll see they won't have the door that covers the hard drive, or they won't have the hard drive caddy, or they won't have a battery, they won't have the power cord, things like that. So you want to make sure that you have those things when you buy the system, and when you're buying used. The other thing with buying used is you want to make sure you are patient. You will get a lot more value buying used, but you can also get a very terrible value buying used. The trick is to know what you're looking at, so take your time and do your research. Don't be in a hurry to buy. Really shop around and look at what you're looking at for. You want to make sure that what you buy is what you really want, because there's no warranty, there's no exchanges, there's no returns. You buy what you get, and so make sure it is what you want. And they can be great laptops. This is my daily carry when I'm going out, and if I'm going out somewhere where I'm got to have a computer, but it's going to be beat up quite a bit, beat around. This I use for Linux. I installed Linux on it, and I'm using that to do some work in Linux. And this is actually my kids' laptop. I bought it for them, installed some learning games and Minecraft and things like that for them. So I just have it in here because of this video. But this is actually their laptop that I bought for them. Just be willing to be patient, and if it doesn't have exactly the spec you're looking for as far as memory and storage, those are things you can upgrade down the road. So that is one of the great things about a used, specifically business class laptop, is they are upgradable, where when you buy one of these, what you buy is what you get, and there's no upgrading to them at all. I have found some ones in the past that are upgradable. You do have some like this Dell that you can upgrade the memory on, and this Asus, which you can upgrade the memory and the storage on, but I wouldn't buy this laptop because it's big and bulky. If you're buying this for the same amount of money, there's no advantage to this than there is to something like this if you're buying something big and bulky anyways, and can upgrade those and have a better processor. Whereas something like this obviously is a lot thinner and lighter and smaller than something like this, and gets better battery life and all that jazz. So the next thing I would recommend before making a decision is really sitting down and figuring out what's most important for you in a system. So I love these kind of laptops because I often have to carry two laptops around with me. My work laptop and then a personal laptop. So my work laptop, obviously I'm not going to do certain things on there. I'm not going to visit my personal bank. I'm not going to store any music or pictures of my kids or anything like, or check my personal email on my work laptop. I'm just not going to do that. So if I'm going on any kind of trip or anything like that, I would have to bring a second laptop. And this is a lot nicer to carry than this, or even this, and especially this. This is a pretty big heavy laptop when it's combined with another one. Basically my work laptop is very similar to this in size and weight, and so having something small, light, easy to carry is really nice. And I like to load these up. I've converted all of my DVDs to digital copies, and so I like to load this up with the little micro SD card and have a bunch of movies like on a personal trip or on a business trip, and so I can watch movies or whatever. It's like this has great sound quality for what it is, and it weighs next to nothing, is easy to carry with me. The other thing that's important to me is a great typing experience, and so I prefer laptops like this Lenovo because it has, for an inexpensive laptop, a very good keyboard. Battery life's important, and something like these, like I said, is perfect for consuming media. I love these for watching movies, things like that, because usually I put this up on the bar in the kitchen when I'm doing dishes or I'm laying in bed watching a movie at night, or my wife's watching TV, and I'll put a movie on and some headphones and sit next to her and watch something I want to watch while she's watching something on TV. That's perfect for these smaller laptops like this. It's small, it's easy to carry, it's very portable. If I'm doing what I consider more real work, if I'm doing a lot more typing, responding to emails, surfing the web, stuff like that, I prefer a little bit bigger of a screen. This is a 14-inch laptop, where this is a 12.5, and these are 11.6-inch screens. So that 14-inch gives you a little bit more real estate. Also, these have a screen resolution of 1366 by 768. This is 1920 by 1080. So this is a much higher resolution screen. You get more on the screen with something like this than you do with something like this. So, just depending on what you're going to be doing with your laptop, you want to focus on some of those finer details of the screen resolution being a little bit higher resolution, so that you get more on your screen and you can be more productive with it, especially if you're doing something with like text. Now, I get a lot of the same questions over, and in fact, just tonight as I was preparing for this video, I got asked this question on, I believe it was this laptop's video, and that is, can this laptop run whatever software? Now, the answer to Roblox is yes. Everything runs Roblox. It's a very lightweight application. It may not run great, but it will run and be more or less playable. The other one I get all the time is Fortnite. No, most of these laptops won't run Fortnite, specifically because they require, I want to say like 50 gigs of storage. And none of these, especially these brand new $200 laptops, they only have 64 gigs of storage. Windows install takes up over 20 gigs of that right off the bat. And so there's not enough storage on these to install Fortnite, period. And then the graphics are not up to snuff to play Fortnite. These laptops are a little bit more capable of that, but it would not be a good playable experience. Everything would be on the lowest settings possible, and your frame rates would still be pretty low. That game requires a very good dedicated graphics card. I've played it on this laptop that does have a dedicated graphics card, and even this is not quite enough. So, but as far as other applications, that's something that you'll need to look up. Will the application you need to run on this laptop? Most softwares will have a minimum requirement. So if you just Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use, software name, minimum requirements, you will get something that tells you what the minimum requirements are for that application. And when those say minimum requirements, like that's really like this application will run mostly with this hardware. What you really want to look at is the recommended hardware. So we'll have kind of like a bare minimum, and then what it says, this is really where you should be at to run this software. And so if you're looking like Adobe Premiere or something like that, they're going to have something that tells you what the minimum requirements are. Especially with games, that will be true as well. Alright, so one thing that I've come across a lot with these lesser expensive laptops is people will buy them, use them, but then drop them and break them, or they'll get damaged in a backpack, or the motherboard or system board on them dies. And the storage on these is a couple of little chips, or even just a single chip soldered to the motherboard. And if your laptop dies, you're kind of SOL. But even with these laptops, if you put an SSD in these and that SSD dies, data recovery on an SSD is much more difficult, depending on what causes the SSD to die, than say a typical hard drive. And so I highly recommend, these usually come with like a year of Office 365, which gives you like a 1 terabyte online storage. You can get free online storage through your Google account. You can get storage through Microsoft. You can pay for additional storage. Same with Amazon. You can get Amazon cloud storage as well. With any system, I highly recommend that you get somewhere that you're storing your files off of your device. So you'll want to keep that in consideration when you're buying these laptops, even these, where you're putting an SSD in there. You should never have all of your most important documents stored on one system in one location. I personally have a network drive. That's a rated network drive. If you're interested in learning about that, let me know and I'll make a video about it. What I have is very basic, very simple, but it's effective, and it does exactly what I need it to do. But for these, you will want something, some sort of offline store, or excuse me, online storage of some kind that you can put your data and keep it safe and protected. I'm not saying I've had dozens of these and not a single one of them has failed on me in any way, shape, or form, but it can happen, and getting your data or recovering your data is next to impossible. It'd be very, very, very expensive to hire somebody to recover that data. And so it's worth your time and effort to look into some of these cloud storages. But most of all, once you buy these, enjoy them. Use them. Load them up with your favorite videos, watch YouTube on them. These are really a great option. Any one of these is a great option for a new laptop under $200. I love this price point. I love this category because you do have so many options for new as well as used. And so just with a little time and a little research, definitely worth it to find something that will fit your needs and fit your budget and work for you. Alright, my apologies. I had a little snafu with the camera, but at the end of this video, I definitely will make some recommendations if you're looking for shopping this holiday season for a used or new laptop under $200. Again, stay away from tablets. Unless you're buying an iPad, don't buy a tablet. They just aren't what you're probably going to look for in a machine. For new laptops, this has been my absolute recommendation for the longest time. The Lenovo 100 series 11-inch laptop has just been the crown as far as sub $200 laptops. You can often find it for $150, $160 all day long on Amazon or Best Buy, and makes a great basic laptop. Has a great typing experience, a pretty good screen, and pretty good performance for this category. Asus has come out swinging. This is the E203M. I believe there's an MA. The only difference between the two is the 64 gigs of storage. I'll make sure I link the one with 64 gigs of storage in the description down below. This one, unfortunately, it does have 32 gigs of storage, and it's kind of a pain because of that. I would not recommend the 32. Again, as I said earlier in my video, definitely get one with 64 gigs of storage. This makes a great machine. One advantage this has over the Lenovo's is the better speakers. This has much, much, much better speakers for the this category of laptop. Now, the IdeaPad 130S, like I said, has always been my recommendation, my go-to. I recently came across this. This is the Lenovo 14W. As you can tell, it is a 14-inch laptop versus an 11-inch laptop, so it's a little bit bigger. What this has going for it is it has better speakers than the 130S. Not quite as good, I don't think, as the Asus, in my personal opinion, but pretty decent. What this one has going for it is just a higher quality laptop for a very similar price. So the 130S, like I said, goes for about $150 to $160. This one I found for between $175 and $190. So it's just a few bucks more, like 30 bucks more, but you get a 14-inch screen, which is actually an IPS 1080 screen, so a much, much better screen. You get similar video and CPU performance. In fact, this is a little bit better CPU performance, about the same graphics performance. I want to say it would be better if they were running the same resolution screen, but because this has a higher resolution screen, obviously the graphics has to work a little bit harder to give you that nicer screen. And it gives you a full keyboard. These are a little bit more compact keyboards than this. And so if you're looking to do more typing, or if you just need or want a larger laptop, I think this from the Lenovo, this 14W, again I'll put a link down in the description, is a great option for a new laptop. Now as far as used laptops, like I said earlier, I've gone with ThinkPads because I just have so many accessories and docks and power cords and batteries, things like that, that go across all of my ThinkPads, and so that's why I've gone with it. But it is what I would recommend. When people come to me and they want a new laptop, a ThinkPad. You buy a ThinkPad and you will just have a good laptop that will last you a long time. Now, that being said, you want to stick with their very tried and true lines. The X series, the T series, the P series. Those are their tried and true business series laptops. They're a little bit more expensive than like the E series or the L series, but there's a reason for that. They're a little bit better built, better cooling systems, slightly better keyboards, things like that. Now, you do give up a little bit. Like I said, these don't have USB Type-C. The X220 doesn't have USB E3 even. They don't have as fast of Wi-Fi. That might be an option or an issue for some people, but they make an excellent laptop. They have significantly better processors than the new laptops do for $200. Obviously, when these came out, they were over $1,000. Some of them were over $1,500 when they were new. Because they sell so many of them and there's so many on the market used, that they just don't have a very high resale value. But the funny thing is I bought this one for my kids for $150, and it still had 90 days left of warranty. It still had 90 days left of manufacturer's warranty on a $150 laptop. And unfortunately I didn't need to use it, but when I bought this laptop, it also had almost a year's worth of warranty left. And it did have an issue when I first bought it. It had a power issue. The power button wasn't working all the time. I sent it in and got it replaced. Now that won't always be the case with every Lenovo laptop you buy, but there is a good chance, because these are, laptops come off lease. These guys will buy, these companies will buy 3 and 5 year leases for these, or warranties on these leases, and they will still have manufacturer's warranty sometimes when you buy them. That's going to be less common now. I bought this laptop over a year ago, and this one I bought several months ago. So the warranty on both of these is up now. But it definitely is an excellent option. Another good option is the HP EliteBook or ZBook. Those are both very good business class laptops that they sell to companies in bulk. So when they come off a lease, there's a lot of them on the market, and you can find really good deals on those. Now, they just are not as common as the ThinkPads, and so you're going to have a little bit harder time. They're going to be a little bit more expensive, but they also are a great option for a sub $200 laptop. You'll just have to be a little bit pickier and spend a little bit more time and have a little more patience until you find the perfect one for you. And with Dells, I'm not a big fan of Dells. I don't like giving them my money. So I'm sure there's some good Dells out there. I always tick people off when I say that, but my current work laptop is a Dell, and it's not that great. This laptop, they've had the same design for quite a while on these low-end 3000 series 11-inch notebooks, and they just are okay. They have okay touchpads, okay keyboards. They're like bare minimum to make the grade. There's a reason why they're a little bit more of a budget system. But regardless, it's not a bad machine. It just isn't what I prefer. So anyways, that's my recommendations. Again, I'll have these links in the description down below. I hope you found this video informative. If you have any questions about any of these laptops, some of these I'm going to be doing a much more in-depth review on them. And those should be coming up here shortly in the next week or two. Hopefully getting these out before Black Friday. So hopefully you get some good information on that. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments, thoughts, leave those down in the description down below. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. I'm just a small YouTuber, so anything you do when you enjoy my content to share it with others, I always appreciate. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.